Sung Hee Hong, I think that's how you say it, says, what does engaged in mean? How does that connect with engagement, like engagement ring? Okay. So engaged has a lot of different uses and meanings, and that's the first thing to realize. You can't always make a connection. In words, you might find two words, or rather the same word, used in two different ways, and you ask yourself, okay, it's the same word. How in the world is... There's a hair on my eyebrow. How in the world is this meaning of this word connected to that meaning? Well, relax knowing that you don't have to make the connection. You don't have to worry about it. It's fine. Let it go. You can have multiple meanings for the same exact word. Like, for example, B-O-W, bow. To bow down is an action. A bow, you can make it a noun. But on top of a present, it's a bow. And a bow tie would be on here. Is there a connection? I don't know. Maybe way, way back. I have no idea. I don't care. Right? In my mind, same word, two different meanings. There you go. So what about engage? Well, as a noun, it would be engagement. Verb is engage. And maybe we can focus on the noun first. Engagement, an engagement, a thing, is like well, in the sense of marriage, commitment to get married. So it's a period of time between dating and marriage. And we say, during our engagement, this period of time, it's a thing, it's a chunk of time when these two people went from dating to married. Maybe they don't make it to being married. We broke it off during our engagement. So someone had said, will you marry me? And the other person said, yes, let's do it. They made a promise that maybe there was a ring, maybe not. Sometimes there's not. And then they make that commitment. They make it to marriage. They get married. Or they don't, and they break up. Okay. That period is called the engagement. And all of the stuff around it uses engagement as the adjective. Engagement ring. Engagement party? Maybe. I don't know if there are engagement parties. But generally speaking, whether it's an adjective or a noun, it's talking about the same thing. When someone says, oh, nice ring, are you engaged? You would say, yes, I'm engaged. I'm engaged. Or no, I just bought it for myself. I'm engaged to Brad. Or Steve. Boring name, sorry. Okay, so that's how it's used in that way. But what if you have an engagement? That could be another meaning of engagement, like a speaking engagement. That would be something that you have committed to do as well, that is organized, planned ahead of time, and that usually is public and out in the open. A speaking engagement, a public engagement. That meaning is different from the relationship meaning. That meaning is about having planned something, having committed to something that you're going to be involved in some way, and usually it's a kind of event that's used like that. There, you wouldn't use the word engage or engaged, probably. You would just say, I have an engagement, a speaking engagement on the 31st. I'm sorry, I can't go to your engagement party because I have another engagement, a speaking engagement on the 31st. So sorry. So sorry. Now, what if we're engaged in something? For example, engaged in a fierce debate. That means we're... Actually, let me pause for a second. Before I answer that, let me answer engage by itself. And then we'll get to in an engagement. If I look at you in the face and I say, I heard that you don't like... What's something that I like that most people don't like? I heard that you don't like mint chocolate chip ice cream. I'd like to talk to you about that. What's wrong with it? Which flavors have you tried? I have now engaged you in conversation. This is like two gears locking into place. I have focused on you and I have connected with your brain. Your brain and my brain are connected. We're now talking about this thing. You say, well, I don't feel like mint and chocolate belong together. And I say, have you tried? I like this, my favorite flavor of ice cream. Okay. Some people hate it. I really like it. So we're locked in this now discussion, and I have started it, so I have engaged you in conversation. It's got a formal feeling to it, but now we are engaged. We're engaged in a conversation, right? So that means we're linked together, we're connected, we're interested in what the other person is saying. I want to know why you don't like this, and you want to know why I do, and we have this discussion. It doesn't have to be a disagreement, by the way. That's just an example. But we're deeply connected to what we're talking about. We are engaged in a discussion. We are engaged in a debate. I have engaged you in a debate or discussion. Then we go to engagement, and there you see something like watch times. If you have a YouTube channel, one of the things that you'll see is your engagement number. And this is the amount of time that people stick with a video, for example, that you make. If you have high engagement, that means people who click on it stay and they watch for a long period of time. If you have low engagement, as soon as they enter, they leave. So low engagement means people are not listening, interested, and focused on what they see. High engagement means people are actively kind of participating in what they see with their brains, right? High engagement, low engagement. Okay. So that's kind of the same meaning. Now, if I'm engaged in some task, not conversation, then I'm not talking about another person. I'm not talking about a relationship. That means I'm sort of focused on that thing. I'm doing that thing. I'm working on that thing. I'm connected to that thing, right? We could say something like, she was engaged in a long legal battle with her ex-fiance, who she had been engaged to. She was engaged in a long legal battle with her ex-fiance that resulted in a large settlement and her getting custody of the dog. It's a long sentence, but engaged in that means they're kind of locked in place in the same way that we were engaged in conversation. And so we could be engaged in battle. We could be engaged in a conversation. We could be engaged in our work. If you're working on something, you have a task, right? You seem very engaged in what you're doing. I won't bother you. I was going to bring you some mint chocolate chip ice cream, but I can see that you are engaged in something very important right now, i.e. focused on something, locked into something, working on something very intensely that you're interested in. I will let it melt beside the door. Okay. And I'll see you later. So that's just an exploration of how we use this word, engage, engagement. The first thing to do is forget that there's a lot of connection between these things. Maybe there is, but we don't have to worry about it too much, right? Probably is a connection with engagement because we're sort of locked into each other before marriage, right? But we don't really think about that when we talk about an engagement ring. So I say, forget about those connections. Just know how to use everything. Make sure you know the different uses. Practice them as much as you can, and you'll be fine.